from them. So let's get into now our personal experience with the game and, our personal thoughts of it. So taking everything away, let's just focus on what we think of the game, personally, right? So, and I'll go first here. So, as I said, my first few hours with the game, I really enjoyed it. Like, it was super immersive for me, especially the story, the writing, and everything. Like, I felt like I was really V. And I'll just go ahead and say that all of Act 1, the prologue, like, all of that was just super impressive to me. Like, I was 100% sold playing Act 1, the prologue, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I got to Act 2, though, that's when I really... that's when I really, really started to see the problems with the game. And some of these problems are... it's like, Night City looks gorgeous, design-wise, it's beautiful. I love, like, the lighting and, just the buildings and the layout and everything. Like, it's really nice looking, especially, if you're able to play on high or ultra settings or whatever. Like, it's beautiful, right? But it's also very shallow. Like, it doesn't feel like a lot is actually happening if you look hard enough, right? And I think a lot of the problem comes from the NPCs and the AI and how it's programmed and everything. Like the NPCs, they are kind of window dressing a little bit. Like, you see a lot of NPCs walking around and stuff, but it doesn't feel like a GTA or a Skyrim where these NPCs have a life, like they're following a particular life pattern. It just seems like they're just there and they're not doing that much. There are a lot of like scripted NPCs, of course, that are tied into the story or into V's experience or whatever. So every now and then you'll come across an NPC that actually means something to the game. So they have particular scripting, and they might act more lifelike because they're scripted to be that way. But the random NPCs you just see around, it's like there's not that much to them besides the aesthetic. If you play a game like, if you played enough open world games like, GTA, Assassin's Creed, well, actually Assassin's Creed isn't the best example, but like GTA, Skyrim, what are some other amazing, let's just use those. Red Dead Redemption, that's another one. So in these games, right, when you see NPCs, they're scripted to live their life. Like, they're actually living, it feels like they're living. Like, they wake up, they go outside, they go to work, do their job, come back home or whatever, like, whatever it is their life pattern is, right? But in this game, CD Projekt is just, they don't do anything. Like, they're just standing there. They're just, and sometimes, like, they're just, even when you try to talk to them, because it gives you the option to talk, they don't say anything really. Like, it's just like, oh, what do you want? Or what are you looking at? Like, it just doesn't feel engaging at all. And then when you combine that with stuff like the driving, right? Now, obviously, the driving controls as well, that's another problem, that, the cars control very badly. But I was willing to overlook that, though, because this isn't a car game. So I just looked at it as, this is just something extra that's there to get you from A to B faster. This isn't a car game, so I don't mind too much. I was willing to overlook that, right? But the problem comes in with the other drivers and their responses to your actions, because it's like, if you knock into another car, if you crash or whatever another car, the stuff that they say, it doesn't fit what somebody would say if they were in an accident. Like, sometimes they're just like, I'm pretty sure I hit a car before, and the person inside the car was just like, "What are you looking at?" or something like. And it's like, so I like slam into your car, damage your vehicle, and you say, "What are you looking at?" Like, it's like the drivers are scripted just like the NPCs you find on the sidewalk. Like, it's like they're all the same. Like, the drivers don't have specific programming. It's just they're in a car and the car just goes forward, and that's it. And it's like, also, if you go in front of a vehicle and just stop or something, they just stop and sit there. Like, they don't beat the horn. They don't, they don't try to go around you. It's just everything stops. And then even if you move again after that, sometimes they're just still there, stopped. Like, it just feels like they're not really alive. They're not really, it's all shallow, and it's just all there to give you a certain look, a certain feel. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just, it just doesn't feel like it's a real thing. Whereas in GTA, and I've played GTA 5 recently, it's like just everything just feels real. Everything is programmed to be real. And yeah, so I started to notice that quickly about Cyberpunk, right? But the thing is with this game, the story is the main attraction. And so it's good that at least the story is good. And I definitely recommend everybody do the side quests. And that's an unfortunate thing with the reviews, because a lot of people didn't have time to do all the side quests. But with the story structure, it feels like they took stuff out of the main story and made some of them side missions too. Because a lot of the side missions tie into the main story as well. So I recommend everybody, do the side quests if you want to get the most out of it. But I do also have some problems with, the story too. Like, there are some pretty immersion breaking things that happen in the story. And, some of it is just how V reacts to certain things. Sometimes it doesn't feel like, you're really representing this character. Because sometimes, I don't know, like the responses just aren't always that good. Like, it's like, like the text you can choose, the dialogue options you choose, like they aren't always great, in my opinion. They could be a lot better. And sometimes it feels like you have no control over how V is acting, like, and and sometimes V just comes across as like just a horrible person, like, or just just not good. Like, at least in a game like Mass Effect, you have the option of being more of like a good, righteous person, or you could be a straight up asshole if you want. But with V, it's just like you're just an asshole. What was you gonna say?
That's a perfect explanation, because I'll give a good example. Let's go to the whole heist. At the end of the heist, when you're on the elevator with Jackie, and obviously he's taken some shots, and you're having that dialogue back and forth with him about what happened. It's like, even though you're saying, well, maybe Bug is to blame for this, it still comes off as you blaming Jackie for it based off of his responses. He's like, well, wait a minute, man, what are you doing? I'm doing my best here, trying to hold on. It's like, it does not feel like, you're 100% right when you say, when you have the dialogue conversation, it doesn't feel like you're saying anything positive or negative. It's just whatever the option is. And if, as someone who has played games like Mass Effect, where you're impacting, where what you say is impactful, it doesn't feel the same way in certain conversations.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that just kind of takes you out of the experience sometimes, like, where you can't react the way you want to. And they marketed this as a role-playing game, and in a role-playing game, you're supposed to really have control over, your decisions and the things you say and stuff like that. Like, and I just don't feel like that in this, like, because I look at Mass Effect as the standard of doing that, because they did it, like, they really nailed it in the first 3 games. Go ahead.
But by the way, I just want to let you know, you said that it's marketed as a role-playing game. I'm not sure if you are aware of this, but they have now They changed it, and now it's an open world action adventure story. So they changed that. That happened recently, very recently.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I'm gonna get to that as well because I have problems with that too. But like that just takes me out of it because that was the biggest part of my expectations for this. Like, yes, I'm gonna get to be V essentially, and I'm gonna get to navigate this world how I want to do it, kind of thing. And it just falls flat. It doesn't really work. And also like I'm obviously I haven't beat the game yet, but it feels like a lot of the decisions you make don't have a lot of weight either. And I'm also hearing from other people that your decisions don't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And this was something that they hyped up a lot, in those Night City Wire things, and So I'm very disappointed about that. And so let's get to the RPG action adventure thing, right? And then I'm gonna let you talk about your experience. Okay. But that's my biggest problem because I already had plans for my character. I wanted to make like a super stealthy hacker character. And it just feels like a lot of the mission design in this game is just pretty standard. Like, and it doesn't really work from a stealth perspective. Like the stealth mechanics just doesn't work. Like a lot of the missions are designed for you to get into combat anyway. So I spent a lot of time spending my points on the cool. You have like different different options for how you want to build your character, like different traits or whatever. So there's cool, there's intelligence, there's body, there's reflexes and technical ability, right? So I spent a lot of time like trying to flesh out the cool trait because that's supposed to be more stealthy stuff, and also like the hacking, the intelligence for hacking and stuff. And the hacking does sort of work because you can do certain things with that. So that's it's okay. I feel like Deus Ex does it better, but this it's okay, right? Like the quick hacking system and all that. Like you can do some fun stuff with it. So I'll give them a pass on that one. But for the stealth, it just doesn't work at all because it's just the way like the missions are structured. It's like you have to shoot. Like you have to. I don't think there's been a mission where I've like fully beat it in stealth because it just doesn't work. Like, and I don't know if it might be like the enemy AI because I feel like there's no like transition from them, being suspicious that someone's there and then going full on alert kind of thing. Like it happens so suddenly. And sometimes it's for the most like silliest thing, as well.
The perfect example to go with that stealth not working. Once again, go back to that heist mission and the fact that you have to escape that building, but there's a whole bunch of guards. And obviously, you have to take out the guard to get access to a gun, but there was no way. I was not able to, and I'm pretty sure a lot of people were not able to get through that mission just to get to them elevators. There's no way in hell you can do that all in stealth because you will get spotted. It's inevitable. So
yeah, it's done really poorly, like the stealth system. So at a certain point, I just decided, you know what, I'm just going to start putting my points into the reflexes and the body, which is like your health and then also like your weapons and stuff. So yeah, because that seems to be what the game wants me to do. It just wants me to shoot stuff. So yeah, like they changed the genre of the game from role playing to open world action adventure. Yeah, and you should have marketed it as that from the beginning because that's exactly what it is right now. Like there's nothing role playing about this game. Like, and if they would have said that this game isn't like it's not Mass Effect, it's not Witcher. and it's not Deus Ex. It's really like open world. What's a game that would suit it?
Dying Light.
Yeah, it's open world Dying Light, or it's BioShock or something. Like it's really more of that kind of style. Like it's essentially a shooter, like basically. And the open world stuff, the role playing stuff just doesn't work. So if they intend to fix that, they are going to have to rework the game from the ground up. Like it's going to have to be a lot of changes to kind of like turn it into what we thought it was going to be. But yeah, I think I have a lot more issues as well. But I'm going to hand it over to you. So let me know what your experience is with the game.
Well, you can feel free to jump in any time if anything I say you also wanted to say. First and foremost, let me say I have been playing on PS5. The game still has a lot of issues on PS5, and even though there was a hot fix that was released last night, the game still crashes persistently. And anytime it crashes, it takes me out of the experience entirely. In fact, due to it crashing twice last night, I actually have decided I'm just going to delete the game and play it when they release the updated version next year. So I'm not going to go back to finish. I was well into Act 2. Some pretty important things happen, but I just can't bring myself to constantly play stuff that continues to crash. Even when I was reviewing games on PS5, when I first got access to some of these games, there were no crashing issues. But when you are in a story game and it crashes, it constantly takes you out of the experience. It is not enjoyable whatsoever. So that's one issue. To go to some of the stuff you said about, go ahead. What'd you say?
No, I was just saying that sucks. Like, it really sucks that people are having such issues with even running the game. Like, you can't, you can't even begin to enjoy it if it's just crashing like that.
Yeah, it would happen where I would play it for about an hour or two, and then I would get to something pretty important that happens, and then the game just starts. It goes to the screen and lets me know that the game had stopped, and then I can report the issue to Sony. And I'm like, yeah, but when I encountered that twice in the span of one playthrough, I said, okay, enough is enough. And also, I will add on to the fact that when I mentioned before, when you download it on PS5 or, Xbox Series X, it was about 101 gigabytes. Just when I had to do the latest hotfix, it was going to be another 50, 60 gigabytes. So that tells me that they have to condense the file size down, but because they're doing updates, this is going to just continue to become a huge file until the proper PS5 version is out. Then it will be reduced by a little bit, but it doesn't really make that much of a difference. So yeah, clearly there's a lot of things that have to be fixed. Now, to go to the gameplay in and of itself, I have to say that I was okay with the shooting mechanics in the game, even though it's not as polished as other games that I've played in the past. But one thing that I absolutely cannot stand about this game, it has to do with the hacking, because I've played a lot of games that do hacking 10 times better. You've already mentioned Deus Ex. A more recent example, Watch Dogs Legion. The hacking is so easy and intuitive in that game. It's like when I look at, it makes you appreciate a game like that and how easy it is to hack. Because in this game, obviously you have to build up the points and stuff like that in order to be able to get better at the hacking. But it just seems like it's a really complex, overly detailed way to do something. And then that also, it plays into a factor with the...
Do you mean the breach system, like where you have to pick the numbers and stuff? Do you mean that?
Yes, that, and just in general, when you also are scanning people and you're scanning, stuff like that, it's not as intuitive because, again, go back to Watch Dogs Legion. When you scan somebody, an NPC, it shows, because of the deep profiler system in the game, it shows you, it's like a better attempt of making this into an actual person, where it goes into what their likes and dislikes are, stuff like that. Whereas if you use that in this game, it just shows the person's name, that's it. And not really any affiliation as to what makes that person tick. Now, obviously, this isn't the same type of game. So I understand why Ubisoft has a different approach to the NPCs. It's much more important in Watch Dogs Legion. But in this game, like you mentioned before, when you get into an accident and then the conversation that happens, it just doesn't feel like a realistic experience when you're having these conversations with the NPCs. And also, one other thing that I have noticed, I don't know if this is an issue on PC. There have been some instances where I would have a conversation with somebody, right? And then there is no option to end the conversation. You have to walk away from the person for the conversation to disappear. That 100% should not be in this game. You should be able to end the conversation because, take for example, this particular mission, and I've seen this has been something that people have been talking about. That's why I want to mention it. The mission when you after you pull off the heist earlier in the game, and you're working with one of the fixers, it's the much older lady. She's telling you to go to a Ripper dock to get a reward. So I go to the Ripper dock to get a reward, and then when I look in and see all of the options that I can get, you have to look in a certain area to find out where the reward is at. Otherwise, you're just continually buying up stuff to actually implement and fix your body as a whole. It's not clearly displayed in the messaging where that option is, where the free option is. You have to look at it. And then when you look at it, all it is just a tattoo for your hands. It's nothing serious at all. So it's like there's a lack of communication in telling you where certain stuff is at. The mapping system when you're traveling to and from different locations, I also feel that could have been handled better. Once again, a perfect example. Watch Dogs Legion and Assassin's Creed. Whenever you are going to a location, they will clearly display on the map where it's at, and they will show you for the navigational purposes how to get there. And you can even fast travel to that location on your own if you want to, and just skip it all entirely. You can skip stuff in this game as well, but it's just like it's a better effort in making the world feel alive, making the characters feel alive. And two other issues I want to mention very briefly. Staying on with the whole thing of you getting into the car and doing stuff. I did not like the repetition, whereas anytime I got into a car and I was in the passenger seat, then I knew I was going to be in for some type of gunfight with the enemies that I'm going up against. That happened entirely too much. From Act 1 to Act 2, it's like it's very predictable. And I'm like, it's like I already know if I'm going to be a passenger in a car, or I have to anticipate and expect to be shooting down some bad guys. And that I didn't like when you have to take that approach where you have to get so repetitive with it. But I understand for the sake of action in the gunplay to really emphasize that this is why they put that stuff in the game, which is fine. But again, I didn't like too much of that. And the last point that I will touch upon, and this is obviously something that I'm pretty sure a lot of people will disagree with me on, just by personal opinion. But when you are introduced to Johnny Silverhand and you see what Keanu Reeves brings to the actual role, it makes me feel like, personally, this is a game where you should have just been playing as Keanu Reeves' character the entire time. Because in that little intro sequence where they introduce the character, there is a lot more weight, depth, and a lot more development with that character in that small scene than there is ever any time where I felt development with my personal created character of V.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, if this was a game where it was just about Johnny Silverhand and you're playing as Keanu Reeves the entire time, I think that would have been 20 times a better experience. I understand they wanted you to have the whole custom player aspect, but it doesn't matter because, again, it's a first-person game. You don't see yourself that much unless you go up to a mirror and you want to, pout or do a grin within the mirror or stuff like that. It doesn't really feel like it's really that impactful, but yet Johnny Depp's character has more. There's a lot more structure to the character. There's a story with the character. I just feel he's a much more interesting character than half of the other characters in the game. He's a lot more fleshed out as a character. And the fact that they were able to do that in that very short sequence where you're playing as him, it's just a better representation of the character. Also, he's a badass character. And when you first play as him, he's leveled up, has all the weapons. It just felt like the gunplay was better for I don't know if that was just me. He had better reflexes, better gunplay, obviously more health. So I'm assuming as you continue to level up, you will play the same way. But it's just the way they introduce him. It's like, this is who I want to play as. I don't care about the V character now, because obviously I know they're telling this whole backstory, which makes you feel as though you are trying to explain the backstory because you choose the life path, so on and so forth. But it doesn't feel like it's a well-developed character yet. Whereas Keanu Reeves' character, it's all there, and it takes very little time to establish that. So that would be my only other complaint, is that it would have been great if this game was just about him. You're playing as him, not your own character, because it feels like they put more thought into having him a part of this project. And if there's one final thing I can say, when I look at the game right now, it feels like, when you go back to the statement you made earlier about the 2-year development cycle, it feels like this is everything that this game was released as. This is the base game of what we are building, but it is still not 100% to what our vision is.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's why it's a problem, because they should have given it more time, as much time as it was needed, because it could have been something special. But because they didn't do that, it leaves a very bad reputation on the company and the devs, unfortunately, because I'm pretty sure any dev that has this game on their resume, now they will be looked upon as a caution if they wanted to get another job. And that's what I hate most about this, is because the devs are being blamed for it, when initially it's the management are the ones that said, we need to hurry and get this game out. So it's very unfortunate.
Indeed. I think you left something out, though, because I remember you were saying that one of your biggest issues was that your character's penis kept glitching in the game.
Let me add this. Well, I didn't say that. But I will say this. Just to go what you said on earlier about the hype, that character creator thing was significantly overhyped by both CD Projekt Red and the fans of the company, because it is absolutely nothing to the character whatsoever. So what? You can enlarge the size of your penis. That doesn't even make a difference in the game itself. And again, one other little thing I will add in terms of the next gen update. I don't know what the next gen update is. I will say that playing on PS5, I did have the control. I did feel some of the haptic feedback while driving, but there are certain aspects of that game, like when you have to go to the Ripper dot and have those procedures done, you should feel some type of motion on your controller when you're going through that stuff, and I didn't feel any of that. So clearly, they have a lot to do, and I can think of ways they can improve it with the DualSense on PS5. I can think of ways they can improve it with Xbox Series X. But right now, it clearly needs a hell of a lot more work with just the base game itself before they even think about all these other little things. So I'm very curious to see how they intend to make the game better. But for right now, I just can't bring myself to play it because, again, the crashing, the bugs. I've seen a lot of the bugs people have had on PS4, Xbox One. Those are significantly worse than what I've experienced. But it's just bad that it's in there in the first place. But yeah, we'll see what they do long term to try and get people interested in the game again. Because a lot of people I know have stopped playing it altogether, or haven't even bothered to play it just because they're like, whatever, it is what it is.
Yeah, and I echo your thoughts on Johnny Silverhand as well. Like that, he's clearly the most interesting character. You know, and I wouldn't actually be surprised if there was some kind of spin-off or even, you know, like a DLC or expansion where you just play Johnny Silverhand or something. Because it seems like there's so much stock put in that character, and even in the because I actually purchased the book on, like, they had like a book that's about like the game and the lore and everything. I forgot the title of it, but they released it a few months ago before the game, and there's a lot of build up to, you know, Johnny's story even in that book, and the whole Arasaka bombing and like the big incident that happened in 2020 or whatever. So yeah, like there's a lot of, like, you know, his story in this world. So I'm surprised that they didn't just make the game about him, like you said.
Yeah.
Because what we've got here with V is like it's just very shallow at the moment. And yeah, that part where you got to play as Johnny Silverhand was really good. Like even it felt like the mechanics were better, like the guns and like it was good. It was really good. And you know, I was just like, yo, when does my character control like this? Like,
so I definitely was not the only one that felt that then. So that confirms, yeah, that's exactly the feeling I had. It's like, you know, you go back to using your character and you see you still have to level up, do all this other stuff. It does not feel, it's like they're teasing you of a better character that you can use, but you can't use that character. So that kind of sucks.
Yeah, exactly. And then also one more thing I wanted to add, because there's a lot wrong with the game, but one more thing I wanted to talk about is I feel like they didn't push the cyberpunk theme as far as they could have. I think, like considering that, you know, you're supposed to have all this cyberware, all these augments and stuff. I feel like they could have done a lot with that in terms of the gameplay and how it works. Like even just little things like the mini map. I feel like the mini map is very bad, especially like when you're following like a path on the GPS or whatever, because it's so like small and close up that whenever there's a turn, it just comes suddenly and like you don't know that you have to turn. So what they could have did is just like make the path in the actual road, and you know that could be part of like your cyberware or something. Like it, you know, your cyberware tells you where you need to go and stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So they could just highlight the actual road, and I've seen other games do this where they highlight the path in the actual road, and that would make sense in this game because you are like, you know, you have all this tech in you.
That is exactly what they do in the Assassin's Creed and Watch Dogs game. You could clearly see where you're supposed to go. So it's no question about, well, where is the objective at? So I agree 100%. They could have done a better job with that.
Yeah, and then and also like customization overall. Like I feel like you should be able to at least like get a haircut or change your hair or, you know, whatever. Like you should be able to do more with your actual the customization of your character. The crafting system and stuff, I do like that it's there because it, you know, it adds another layer to the weapons and stuff because you can upgrade them and stuff. But I feel like the economy of the game is a bit off. I feel like you don't make money fast enough to be able to afford like a lot of good things, like because there's a lot of like cool cyberware that you can unlock, but they're very expensive. And even if you do a lot of the side missions, it takes a long time to build up money before you can get the cool stuff, I feel like. And then, you know, you have the option to buy vehicles too. But those are, like, if you're buying vehicles, then you're not going to have enough money for the cyberware. Like, so it's, like, I don't like that. I wish there was more options to make money. Like,
I think one of our colleagues, I'm not sure if it was Tony Torrance or someone else, made mention of, there's no economy, so you're not making money in the game. And again, you were able to do this in other games like Grand Theft Auto, so on and so forth. So it kind of sucks that, at least from what I have played so far, there is not a way to any way to make money unless you are just doing the, you know, crimes. And I guess but it feels like there should have been another way you could make money to help, you know, you get to the top. That's what the whole thing is. You know, V wants to be remembered for something amazing, and at the same time, I don't care too much about V as a character because they have told me that I shouldn't care that much about him as a character.
Yeah, for real. Like, because there are like side things like you can help the police by catching like gangs or enemies or, you know, killing them or whatever. Like. So you can make a little bit of money that way, but it's really not a lot. And some of those missions are littered in areas that are too high, like they're too high skilled for your level. So it's like you can't. There's only so much of them you can do at any point in time. So the the point of the game I'm at now, it's like I pretty much have to just do the main missions because like I can't make any money. I've done most of like the side quests except the ones that are like too high for my level or whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I just wish there was more. I feel like there's not even really any mini games and stuff, like, you know, so it just feels very like bland and shallow. And it's like the story really is the main attraction. So
hey, now just one quick question I want to ask, because I mean this was an opportunity. Obviously, I guess they couldn't do this. Have you seen any references to The Witcher in this game? Like maybe had another version of the Gwent game that is playable in certain areas, or any posters with Geralt in it. Have you seen any of that in the game so far? Obviously, I believe they probably couldn't do that anyway because of the rights, but I'm just curious if they have anything pointing back to other games they've worked on in this game.
If there is, then I might have missed it. There actually is like an item of clothing you get on if you buy the game on Good Old Gaming, which is their app. Then you get like a bonus like clothing item inspired by The Witcher, but that's pretty much all I've seen. I haven't really seen any references or anything. And sometimes you get like these little documents that you can read as you're playing, but I don't read them. Because the world just doesn't feel authentic anyway, like, so I'm just like, yeah, whatever, I don't care. So I don't bother to read them. So I don't know if there's any like references in those, but I haven't seen anything significant that references The Witcher. And I feel like the old CD Projekt probably would have had a lot more references and stuff, or just funny things and stuff. And that's another thing, like even the humor in this game is pretty bland. Like there's some moments that are like trying to be funny and it's not funny. So yeah, but
I agree.
But that's like my overall like thoughts on it at the moment. But I will say this though, I am still having fun with it. Like I'm still playing it and I'm still interested to see where the story is going to go. And I'm still interested in the game, but I'm just disappointed, at how much it's lacking. And just the fact that, it's probably going to take months, maybe like 4 months to a year for this game to become what we promised. That alone annoys me because I don't have time to play games like all the time anymore. Like I can't play every game and stuff. So the fact that you're telling me I've got to play this game twice, like to really get like the full experience of what, like I have to wait for you to fix it and then play it again to get the full experience of what I expected. Like that annoys me. And I feel like that's a bad practice that needs to stop in video games. But what were you going to say?
Well, yeah, I agree with everything you had to say because I feel like, it's a very risky situation because the first impression was supposed to be the lasting impression. So for them to release this game and then expect people to come back later, a lot of people may not come back later because, again, there are a lot of other games coming out, some that have been announced, others that have not been announced that we are probably going to be looking forward to a hell of a lot more. Now, I'm just saying, if this is not going to happen because we already know this game is nowhere near being done and completed, and it probably will again be something that might disappoint. The next Mass Effect game, if that game was to come out the exact same time frame as this rumored update for this game, I think a lot of people may say, well, to hell with this, I'm going to play Mass Effect. I don't know what the big game is going to be next year, but all I'm saying is whatever that big game is, I hope it doesn't come out the same time as this because once that update is out and they've added changes to the game or whatever, it's going to be hard to get people to just come back to the game because, again, it's about the first impression. Now, in the case of No Man's Sky, they have turned things around completely. So I guess it is possible that they can still have people come back and play it a second time around. But I think it's a very risky situation to put yourself in because of the fact of all the other stuff with the refunds and all of that adds on to the perception people are going to remember. whether or not they want to play this game again or play another game that they release in the future now because of this. So they definitely would have to figure out some way to attract people back to this. And I'm curious to see how they intend to do that, but I don't think it's going to go well. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it just annoys me because I thought CD Projekt were different, and you know, this is one of the biggest issues that kind of soured me on gaming, like the fact that games are coming out broken and then you have to wait months for them to fix them. That stopped me buying a lot of games, period. And of course, like other things going on in my life too, but like, yeah, like that soured me on gaming, and I never thought I would, you know, would see CD Projekt do something like that. So that's left a bitter taste in my mouth. I don't trust them as much as I used to. But yeah, I'm still gonna complete the game. I'm still gonna play it. I'm still having my own fun with it. It's just very disappointing. That's all. But was there anything else you wanted to say?
And the last point I will say on this particular topic is I while I have deleted the game, I still am looking forward to seeing.
Wait, you deleted
how? Yeah, I did last night. Right after that second crash happened, I said, "The hell with this! I'm going to download and play some stuff that will actually run correctly on the console." So I will say I have written a lot of notes about my thoughts on the game, so I will still intend to post that on the website next week. But I am going to wait until the update is released because I feel as though that the experience is going to definitely be different. It might be more improved, but I don't have the patience right now to wait for them. And in terms of the PC version, they did mention when they had those hot fixes, they were still going to be doing stuff to PC version as well. So I feel like anyone that wants to play this game, if they still want to play it despite all of the bad stuff that has happened, I would suggest that they wait until next year, whenever the final game is out, and then give it a try. But I would not say if you have the game already and you're trying to get a refund, I hope you are able to get a refund. But if not, then maybe you need to not bother with any more CD Projekt Red games for a while, because I feel as though they definitely have to. Yeah, let me add in this last point about what I think that they should do to repair all that has happened. Obviously, when you play around with people's money, you can't take any of that stuff back. What I was recommending they do though, again, establish the people at the very top who were very much pushing this game and they didn't communicate with the devs. Internally, whoever is the owner of this company, I don't know if it was the owner of the company that made that decision, but whoever is in power above those managers, they need to get rid of the managers. I'm not saying that, you know, listen, I want to make it clear. I'm not saying that you fire people. I do believe, you know, we are in a pandemic. A lot of people lost jobs already, so on and so forth. But something has happened with those individuals. If you don't fire them, they need to be suspended and they need to be taken off this project and put on something else, or just be demoted in their roles to some degree. But I do think that they need to pay the price for that. And I think that CD Projekt Red needs to be transparent. If these conversations are happening on Reddit and a lot of people are already talking about it, the public is already aware of this issue. So if I was the CD Projekt Red, I would just come out and make another statement and say, internally, there were some issues with the game. We have gotten rid of the people that made these decisions to move this thing forward, or we have somehow removed them from that position or whatever. I think they need to make that known. Secondly, I almost anticipate and expect when they said that they were working on another Witcher game, they are going to work on another Witcher game, and I will not be surprised if they bring back Geralt, because they said previously he will not be in any future Witcher games. Now I think that's going to change entirely because they know people like the character. You know, the Netflix has the Witcher series on now as well. So I kind of feel like that will give them an excuse to bring him back because they feel like they can get people's back in people's good graces if they release another entry in the Witcher series because they are familiar with that series, with that world. So I could 100% see them doing that now as a result. But whatever they do, it's going to definitely impact the next game that they work on. So we'll see what that is.